So again, thank you guys so much for joining me.
Yeah.
So if it's okay, I'm gonna start with Dan. If you guys could go down the line and introduce yourself, tell us what your name is, what your primary art medium is, where you primarily sell, anything you find this group might be interested.
Name is Dan Ishler, and I live in Oak Harbor. I have a gallery right on the highway, just as you're coming into Oak Harbor. Been there 20 some odd years. And that's, right now, that's really the only place I sell is out of the gallery. But I have done wholesale, been in co-ops, different galleries and stuff. And I found that you have to be versatile in where your outlets, what you're selling and stuff. Never, it always changes, so.
My name is Gary Leake. My wife and I downsized from Bill down here over Freeland. We lost our website. It crashed and never came back. It took 6 weeks to get the internet. Gary Allen Leake died about that time. So it's been an adventure since our business is full-time employment. We do antique restoration and we build custom furniture. Some of the pieces are up there. I wouldn't know which ones you put up. But we moved to the island 25 years ago and started doing more artistic work, less restoration. It kind of ebbs and flows. Right now, about 30% of our work is restoration, repair, strip and refinish, modification. Our passion, though, is finding wacky pieces of wood and making what we want to do. The whole challenge is finding something to sell. We'll talk about that a little more, but we do not sell on the internet. We don't accept credit cards. We're old school all that way around. I almost forgot. This is one of the pieces of wood that we go hunt for. This is cherry. We've had this 6 or 7 years. And it finally spoke to us the other day and said, this is what I should be. This is our art. Love doing that. I sell through galleries. So I don't sell online. We're in one co-op. We'll talk about co-ops later. But love doing it. See challenge, speak, galleries, commissions. We do commissions. They're stressful, I admit that, but we do a lot of commissions, and some of them are. One was a 4.5 foot square table with one slab on the top. The slab was that thick. 4 legs came all the way up through with wedges. Huge project in our little dingy shop. So that's it for the moment. How's that?
Beautiful.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Koch, and I'm actually going to start with a quote just to set the tone to tell you about myself. This is from a really fantastic book by Rick Rubin, who's the producer for Jack Clippers, and it's called The Creative Act. And this is a quote from a guy called Robert Henry. The object isn't to make art. It's to be in that wonderful state which makes art inevitable. And this is where I live all the time. Thank you, Spirit. I have had a really wonderful, blessed life. I grew up in Europe. I'm actually an architect. I trained in England. And my soul calling is visual arts. So that's the title I give myself, is visual artist, because it really is like an umbrella that allows me to create in many different ways. So I don't just do one thing. Right now, my passion is public art. So my most recent public art, which some of you may have seen, likely.
Oh, it's great.
It's called The Wishing Wall. And I also like to call myself an artful activist. Ooh, that's one of the words that's been banned. Did you like that? I'm being recorded. And I'm very blessed. I'm represented by Seattle Art Museum Gallery, which is fabulous. It's a rental sale gallery, so every once in a while I get a check in the mail, which is just great because they rented a piece. I was at Museo for many years. I'm not there currently. I've shown here. I'm really one of those artists who doesn't just stick with one thing. Like I'm very curious and I love trying all kinds of different things. So I've exhibited in theaters, I've exhibited in street markets, art galleries, etc.
Here.
And here, thank you very much, many times, yeah, and a lot of installation.
Where's the gallery you mentioned? Shelter.
Seattle Art Museum Gallery, it's in Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, I'm Cormac McCarthy. I have a gallery down in Kenton where I sell most of my work through my gallery. I'm a painter, impressionist to abstract, not quite abstract, more in the impressionism. I use palette knives whenever I get my hands on to create my work. So I opened my gallery 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. I started painting, seriously painting 5 years ago. I was a teacher for 15 years and I went to art school where I studied graphic design, marketing and advertising. And so I was lucky enough that I had two skill sets that I could pull together to bring me the success in the art business, which was the graphic design, marketing, and advertising side, as well as. And so I had an idea as to how to market myself. So a few things kind of came into alignment in order to propel me to the place where I am now. Because my story really isn't the same as a lot of artists, in that things happen quite quickly for me. But I've worked my ass off. And COVID was actually pretty good for me because I was at home, tiny little studio. I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'd go to bed at 10 o'clock at night. I would work, trying new styles, trying new things. And so in the middle of COVID, I was lucky enough that I'm sure many of you know Louis Roshan. Louis invited me to be a guest artist in the studio, thinking I'd only be there for a minute. And then months and months later, he asked me if I'd be a resident artist in his studio because we spent all day laughing at each other and painting and having fun. And so then COVID happened. I spent that period of time at home. And then across the road from him, a space opened. And it was this moment of how serious am I of wanting to make art my career? Either I go for it or I don't. It's pretty simple for me because I wanted to make it my career. I had a month's rent in my pocket and I signed a lease to the chagrin of my poor wife who thought she was going to be paying my rent for the next 2 years before I ever started to think about it. And I my grand opening sold 10 out of 11 pieces of my grand opening for my gallery. And so that's kind of where I started. Sprinkled with a lot of hard work, sprinkled with, which is what I would say to any artist, is to find advisors. She is one of them, people you respect in the art world who can help advise you, steer you a little bit, and when you're down, help you get back up. And Louis was absolutely one of those for me, and Mel has been one of those for me also. That is a little brief glimpse. There's obviously a lot of details in there, but that's the intro.
Our studios are next door.
Yes, right.
So let's jump in with the big question. What does it mean to be a professional artist? Or if you don't know how to define that, how did you know when you made it? Like when you could do this instead of doing it with something else? Anybody want to jump in? You guys, you go in order, you can just jump in as thoughts.
It takes a long time. I took my first pottery class in 1970, did my first show in 74. And did shows until about 10 years ago, no, actually about 15 years ago. And did a lot of different pottery things, shows all over the United States. Wherever I could sell stuff.
You did the circuit, as I've heard it called.
Well, yeah, we had a sales rep when we lived in Montana, and we had like 150 accounts at one time. And I was becoming more of a manager than a potter. So we shut that down, although it was pretty lucrative for quite a while. And then we moved out here in '99. Just me in the studio. Which was nice. Because I kind of prefer to be by myself.
Yeah.
Rather than having 6 or 7 people around. But anyway, yeah, and then we joined the Cove Gallery soon, when we moved out here. That's where I met Gary. Yeah, I was in that for what, 10 years? And then I just went to my house and opened a gallery on Highway 20.
It's such a prime location, you have.
Yeah, and I've asked almost everybody that comes in where they, or how they found it, and they said, well, we're just driving by and saw it. So I don't do any online stuff. I don't even get business cards anymore. So. Seems to be working pretty well.
Well, I ran a decorative painting company for many years, so I went to beautiful homes and painted their walls, did murals and patinas and faux finishes. And I got kind of tired of doing that after a while. And a friend of mine, I had a studio, I was living in Seattle, and she said, Mel, I had this big table, like 10 feet by 10 feet square in the middle of my studio. And she goes, divide your table up. So you have 3/4 decorative arts, a quarter visual arts. And then every month, decrease decorative arts and increase fine art. And I did that. Like all of a sudden, you know, after, I don't know, a year or something, the decorative arts was off the table. And I started doing public art, visual arts, fine art. And I started going to workshops and things just to get inspired. And because I love public art and that's the arena I wanted to get into, I started applying for all these calls. And you have to indicate whether you're an emergent artist or an established artist. So I use those terms instead of professional artist. So for a lot of years, I was emergent artist, you know, you've only had so much experience, but now I can put established artist. And what that means is you've had experience doing projects of a certain size. So I've worked on projects worth up to $150,000. That's a really nice, big project. And I've also worked on small things, but I've done them repeatedly. Like I've kind of mastered the trade now. Like I know how to run a project on time, in budget, get it done and make it, I guess what we call successful. And I guess being an established artist, like I took some notes, like when your art becomes your practice, like what Cormac was saying, you get up and you dedicate yourself to that. I think Picasso said, what is it, 90% blood, sweat, and tears, you know, and you have to just turn up and do the work. I also find that it's when you are really using your voice, like for a long time you do imitations, you know, like I used to go to the museum and paint impressionist art, you know, copy Renoir and all these guys, just to learn. But now I have my own voice and my own style that I've cultivated over many, many years of practicing. And I also find that being a professional artist or established artist is your way of serving something greater than yourself. So for me, it is my purpose. Like I've come here to do this work and I serve humanity or my community in this way. And it's what sustains me, not just materially, financially, physically, but spiritually as well. Emotionally, creatively.
Yeah, this was the toughest question.
I'm glad it's the second one.
And basically, I don't know the answer to how you know when you've made it. It's more emotional than financial. So we're or do anything else. But fortunately, we make a living at it. We enjoy it. And that's pretty much the crux of it. But I'll tell you, mine was not a journey that really was purposeful. I was an engineer because I didn't want to be a farmer, grew up on a farm. And my grandfather and great grandfather were my inspiration for woodworking. They were cabinet makers. And I still have my grandpa's lathe that I turned on when I was 5 years old with no safety, no safety shields or anything, no OSHA. But mine was a journey in restoration, repair, and keeping antiques in the family alive until some college friends of ours moved to this island. They bought a gallery in Langley. Ron and Richard, and I can't, Proctor Childers, I think, does that ring a bell to anybody? Or may have Packard. Ron and Richard sold them the gallery. And Georgia Gerber was in there, and they had some 3D pictures, but they didn't want to hang. There was a firm belief, no art below the waist. And I've been in some galleries where they hang it all the way down for little pieces and stuff. And they were frustrated, so they asked me to make some tables. I made some tables and they sold. That was 28 years ago. We're now working on our 533rd table for the art gallery market. They're all in a registry. So from the get-go, we saw that as potential. It's a niche. And when we get to talk about when you go into a gallery and what do you do, it's about a niche. We found a niche that was there. It's airspace that's available to do anything. And one of my funniest experiences was for a birthday a number of years ago. We went into Seattle to the galleries and we talked to Foster White. And they say right on the website, don't make an appointment, don't come in, send us stuff. If you hear from us, we're interested. If you don't take it personal because we'll never respond. We talked to two of the nicest people. They even got the nicest rejection letter I've ever had. So there are those moments. People talk more about the galleries.
Andy Warhol was rejected by a Museum of Modern Art in New York. He offered one of his paintings to the Museum of Modern Art, and they said, sorry, we don't have space for it. I bet they're kicking themselves now.
Sure, Foster White can do without me.
I don't know. Their loss.
So when you know you've made it, when I sold my first painting for $50, thought I was a shit. I was there. I was an artist. When I had invited to be a guest artist in someone else's gallery, I was a shit. I made it again. Opening my own gallery, having my own website, having people come in who somehow want to give me money for my art. So I get to paint what I love. Someone else wants to give me some money for it. And so on, my first gallery outside of my own gallery, my first international sale. So I kept going. I thought I made it. I've made it now. I've made it now. It's completely subjective.
What I'm hearing is celebrate victory, every victory.
It's not even celebrate the victory, but be clear to yourself what it is to you, because to me, there is no destination of making it. It doesn't exist. You keep going and you enjoy those victories as they come. those little moments. And each one of those, it takes work. And I have a tendency to set a goal for myself. This is what I want. And I work towards it and work towards it and work towards it. And then you reach that goal and then go, well, what now? And it just, Mel has helped me on many times to get me to enjoy the singular moment I'm in right now. And I find it really tough. Just that's the way I'm built. I find it tough to do that because I want more. And I can spend my life wanting more and maybe not be as happy if I just sat back for a second and go, I'm making money from the thing I love. I can contribute to my family. I can, with a large sale, I can buy something nice for me. You know, I've got everything. My family is safe. So I've reached that point that many will have to work a long time to reach, and I'm grateful for that. But making it, here's what I wished I had done at the beginning. I'm sorry for going over time. Write down on a piece of paper, but making it is free. So that when you get to that place, you can look at your piece of paper and go, I never even thought I would get to number 5 on this list. And here I am. To remind you that it is this singular moment, this one thing, and enjoy the process. And because it takes a lot of hard work, and every professional artist will tell you that. It's kind of like, it's this romantic idea of the professional artist without the understanding that we're in our rooms in the dark of night and in the dark of morning, working at our craft in order to improve as artists and to move forward. It's not just, I painted for a few hours at home and then it magically happens. It just doesn't go that way. So making it can be different for everybody else.
That's exactly why I wanted to ask all of you that question for the show. It is different for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. The making it for me is completely different. It has nothing to do with money.
Right.
Yeah.
What I love is when you make something and you sit back, like I go and hide and I just watch the reactions. That for me is my reward.
Yeah.
You know, when you do something that touches somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not financial. I don't get joy in the financial. It's just a process of me keeping my doors open.
Yeah.
But when I do something like those singular moments, and this happens for me once every 2 years, I am in front of the canvas and everything is right. The music is right, the temperature is right, I'm happy-go-lucky, and I start to paint, and it's as though I could put a blinder on and have 2 palette knives, and the painting would still come together. And I stand back and look at that painting, and it's a really, really good painting. That is making it
Yeah.
full circle.
Yeah. I guess really we're channeling, you know, that's how I see it. I'm pretty Buddhist about it, you know, for me, it's through me. And it's there, it comes, so it's just what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And like the mural in Langley that we worked on, so I work with my daughter as well, so it's mother-daughter collaborations, and she's been working with me since she's been 5 or 6 on site, and she's a great artist. And when we took those huge pieces, I mean, they're really big, it's kind of deceptive when you see the photo here.
A couple of them with you in it.
Oh, right, there's like the leaves as tall as I am, and but there was something about putting those pieces together with the team on the wall that once the last piece went in, there was just this, the magic happened, you know, like it was just the harmony, serenity, and the placemaking happened, like what you're talking about, Cormac, you know, just the palette knives doing the dance themselves. That's beyond us as humans, you know.
I agree.
Really magical process.
My version's simpler. First photo shellac. Art there. It's that first photo shellac and it pops and you see the chatoyant. So yeah.
But even just when the wood talks to you, that must be really fun.
Yeah, that.
Now it wakes up.
We have pieces, my grandfather died in 73. We took pieces under a college bed, 4 moves, and they still haven't talked to me, and they're still in our shop. I have no idea what we're gonna do with those pieces, but that's okay. I'll have unfinished projects. We all have unfinished projects.
Yeah.
Yours is probably glaze, and probably would take them out of the kiln.
Out of the kiln, I bet, yeah.
Yeah, opening kiln is usually a good surprise.
Yeah, either way.
Right, so there's so many places to sell, but not every option works for every artist or type of art. So how did you choose between galleries or having a booth at an event or a street fair, or being selling online or taking commissions?
Great question.
I can go first if you want. I told you the story of the Gaskell Olson Gallery and having nothing, and they gave me an opportunity to put something in there. Over the years, they let me make whatever I wanted. I mean, it was literally, I made a one-legged corner cabinet that people wondered and had a wheel, a caster at the bottom. And people wondered if it was bolted to the wall. Well, of course. That gave me an opportunity to expand my horizons. After that, we went to the wood merchant. If you've ever been to the wood merchant, it represents, I don't know, 150, 170 woodworking artists. It's in O'Connor. And we went through a couple other galleries in O'Connor to get there. But they've been a huge, they outsell all of the other galleries in at the moment because you're expecting people in there. Typical art gallery, you walk in, there's paintings, you're there to see paintings, you're there to see bronzes, you're there to see. After they leave, one says to the other, did you see the tables in there? And the other goes, what tables? We don't sell online. We thought about it. We do ship, so it's not that we're not willing to ship. Our son secretly put some tables on Etsy. They didn't move. We didn't even know about it for 6 months. But we decided a long time ago to go through galleries, and we priced that in. Some galleries are different than other commissions. We're in one co-op. I get to work there. It's a lower commission. And Koch Gallery. I learn a lot about woodworking and art and color and composition working there behind the desk. I don't do it because it's a different percentage. The galleries in at the moment, we're in 7. We've been at 14 over the years. We're still in 7. Some of them are we've never had a bad experience. Some of them are in dire straits, so we don't mind our 50-50 co-op split with them. That just built in. I know a lot of woodworkers on this island are struggling and can't do that. We fortunately can. Very fortunate. We talked about other options for selling and stuff, and we decided the galleries do a great job of marketing. And they are our marketing arm. We have a website. Thank you, Sandy. But it's not representative really of what we're okay with. You've seen it, Angela. Anyway. I thought it was downstairs.
Thanks.
Sorry,
I've had different experiences with galleries, especially out of state ones. And we were in some down in Arizona for a while. Go back down there the next year and they're closed, they're gone. No forwarding address, nothing. Pots are just gone. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we kind of phased out of that. We did the wholesale that we did, they just paid us.
That's right.
We didn't do any consigning or anything like that. Paperwork on that is because I mean, with pottery, there's a bunch of pieces involved. So you know, we got 50 or 60 pieces, and to keep track of the paperwork is a full-time job, and that's actually what she took care of all that, but it got to be too much. So I do some wholesaling and it's just cash. Other than that, it's just retail out of our gallery at the house. Don't take credit cards, don't do anything online. I don't even have a website online.
Yeah, you were the one that wasn't linked on the
Yeah,
that post. So it sounds like you just sort of tried stuff and then adjusted as you had experience.
but now,
It sounds like you just sort of tried things and then adjusted as you had different experiences, you know,
yeah, you just have to kind of.
put yourself out there.
Feeling, if something's not working, don't do that. There's easier ways to make. You know, than being an artist.
There's easier ways to make money than being in your own business, no matter what that business is.
Oh, yeah. It's a 24-hour a day thing and 7 days a week. You don't get to go home at 5 o'clock and forget about it, because there's always something you gotta think. Whether something's breaking down or, you know, supplies you gotta have. It's just constantly one thing after another.
I think it depends where you are in your career as well. Like in the beginning, I was happy to exhibit my work and sell through restaurants and bars and cafes. Oh, yes. So, because I'm not an emergent artist anymore, I have a different attitude about where I exhibit work. So in the beginning, I was happy to like show in restaurants or bars, places like that, just try it out. But again, I kind of try everything, like I've done the Langley, Second Street Market. I did that after COVID. I've exhibited at Taproot Theater, that was just 2 years ago. And I really go to places that call me. I don't go just to sell my art, it's because there's some kind of interesting connection. I also, because I do public art, I apply for calls online, and I'll talk about that later. They're really challenging because you're being picked or not picked out of a pool of maybe 300 people, and there are a lot of good artists, as we all know. So it's very competitive. You spend a lot of time doing applications and, you know, submitting your images and stuff, and it's time consuming. Like I just applied for the Langley sign competition. I don't know if you guys know about it. I wasn't selected, that's fine. But I invested a huge amount of time in it, you know, so that kind of sucks, you know. But that's just the way of it. When I did the Artist Trust, I'll talk about them. They used to run, I looked it up online, I couldn't find it. It was a great program called the EDGE program. It was an artist professional training program that really taught you how to approach galleries, you know, how to write a resume, a bio, etc. And after that, and I also did the Seattle Office of Arts and Culture Public Art Boot Camp, which is phenomenal. That's an intensive 1 week program. And I started winning public art calls after that. And I think once you get established, people start to know your work and know your name. And I get invitationals, and those are the ones I love, because it's somebody who knows your work and wants your work, rather than being in a pool of 500 other great artists. The galleries, it's hard to get into galleries now. It was already difficult, but a lot of them have shut since COVID, and yeah, it's a little bit more challenging now. And I think Cormac and Louis have a really good formula selling out of their own studios. You know, if you can have a space to do that, I think that works. Online seems to work quite well. I don't sell online either. I did with my daughter during COVID create something called Melly Mask. Check it out, still going, the website. And we took my art and printed it on fabric and made masks and kimonos, and we sold out. And so we did sell online for that, but I don't sell my visual art.
Yeah, I sell online, but well, hang on now. I don't really sell online. I advertise,
Yeah.
heavily advertising online. So in my opinion, social media in many respects, and I'll be preface this with, it's different for each one of us. We each have our own journey as artists. But maybe 80% of the people who come into my gallery come in because they've seen the social media. Social media leads them to the website. Website is a catalog of my work. And the next step is that they would contact me to come to the gallery to see a piece. If somebody is interested in a painting and they come to my gallery to see it in person, it's a done deal. Because of that impact of original fine art when you see it in person, it's completely different than when you see it or on the screen. Facebook is an older demographic. Instagram is kind of a middle-aged demographic. Some of my art works very well on Instagram, some of my art works very well on Facebook. I look at analytics, I look at the insights, I see where there's crossover, I identify the audiences, so on and so forth. But for me, I've had experiences in galleries. One was an international gallery in Bellevue, stunning place, really hoity-toity, and it was a terrible experience. It was awful. I've been unlucky to have several really terrible experiences with other galleries. So what do I need to prefer? Have my own gallery, have my own space. Paired with the social media is what Mel said earlier, take every opportunity. I don't care where my work is shown. I want it in front of the public for two reasons. One, I'm promoting myself and my business, my artwork. And the second is I love the idea that people can see beautiful artwork when they walk into any space, no matter what it is. I had a person come in last week to buy a painting, and I asked that same question, where did you see me? And she goes, oh, I've seen you everywhere. and internally I'm like, yeah. That's it. That's part of my strategy, is that I want to build my core base in my local community. If you don't have it, you cannot move forward to an external audience. You must have that unique and individual following that is your space. I bring groups of students from the school system, from any of the schools, into my gallery, second graders last month, and they sit down and we talk about art. And it's a stunning little gift that I can give back to my community. How I spread that joy of original fine art. And a knock-on, as a business person, a knock-on effect is sometimes they bring their parents in at the weekend. Then all of a sudden you've opened up a new audience. Right? So take every opportunity. And maybe, guys, if anybody up here disagrees with that, I'd love to hear your opinion, but I think you can now use social media as an avenue to what galleries used to do for you as an artist, which is they are the promoters of your work. No, I am. I need to get my work in front of people's faces so that I can introduce myself to them as an artist, and then the degrees of separation between them coming to my gallery or word of mouth, friend or somebody else coming to my gallery and buying a painting are reduced with every one of those steps. And so having your own space, just like they said, having your own gallery, where you don't have to share any percentage of your sale. It's yours. If I said to anybody, you get to work in the Goose, but when you're finished, you have to give me 50% of your wages every month, there would be strikes. Right? Don't get me started. You can hear it in my voice. I want to take a breath. So. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway.
I have a different opinion about it.
Hey, good.
I think gallery owners, because I've worked with Museo for many years. I was in Museo when Sandra owned it, and a couple of years when Michael and Nancy were the current owners. And Sam Gallery, they worked really hard, these guys, to sell your art. And so I think it's a fair contribution to what they do for artists. You know, the marketing is to pay the rent and the electrics and paying shows and.
If they promote you as an artist, if they don't, no, and that's what has happened to me. That's why I'm bitter, is because I brought in my work, I hung it in their galleries, they took it, and they took and gave nothing, and I'm like, no.
And
So-
Sandra was really great because she, I don't know if you guys remember when Sandra Museo, like she had that great Mardi Gras festival and she would include local artists. She also got our work hung at the Langley Inn. Like she really was great that way. She brought in floral arrangers like Val Houston, people who were very connected with gardening and stuff, and they made bouquets of flowers inspired by our artworks. Just really creative and really engaging and fun. And I loved it back then. That was a lovely experience.
Good galleries or good bad galleries or.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it right there.
No, fortunately, we never had a gallery lose a piece
Yeah,
or not sell it. Yeah, we've been very lucky that way. And I love the galleries that we're in. They're easy to work. The one thing about a gallery though is we'll never do a solo show. If everything's this high around and
Yeah.
nothing on the wall,
Oh, yeah, that's
we'll
true.
never do a solo show.
Yeah.
But we have year-round representation.
Yeah.
And that's pretty unique
Yeah,
in a lot of
that's great.
galleries.
yeah,
So all of the wall art changes and moves, and maybe there's pastel show. They just had a watercolor show up in Florida. That one, my tables move around, but they're still there. And that is huge. We got a niche, it's year-round representation. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Big deal.
So what are the top 3 things beyond your art that a beginning or what term did you use again?
Emerging.
Emerging artist needs to have?
Support, knowing where you can go to get that support. Like, it took me years to figure that out. The thing about being Island County, there's not so much, like, if you're in King County, there's a lot, like, Artist Trust, I think, if you live on Island County, you can still apply for their GAP grants. Those are really great. I won one of those once. You get $1,500 to do a project. I think it might have gone up now. There's for culture, Office of Arts and Culture, Seattle Office of Arts and Culture. They're great. You can go online and if you're interested in research that, they do give grants to artists. They have different projects, different calls for art. Also, like for culture has a gallery, so you can apply to show there. On the island, so there are a number of groups now. I'm on the board of what was called the Langley Arts Fund. And we are an organization that want to do interesting projects with artists. So you could always apply to the Langley Arts Fund if you had an idea and they might help you fund it. There's also the Whidbey Island Arts Commission. I've had grants from them and they're small grants. I think they're like $500 grants, but if you have a project or you need equipment, that's a great way to get some funding for that. What else?
I took the question differently. I was thinking like create a need, tenacity, passion. Yeah. Different.
Yeah,
Obviously, in my case, I need woodworking tools, but the cost, so many materials, variabilities. The stained glass artists that use a beautiful pink glass, it's got gold in it. That's what makes pink. Buy it by the
I
pound.
have some of that.
So some of the supplies are just all around. Some haven't recovered from the COVID period.
Yeah.
So supplies are a huge issue. Keep going with your glazes are probably the same.
Yeah, when I started out, clay was $60 a ton, now it's $700 a ton. And glaze materials are changing constantly because where they mine the stuff,
sure.
they run out, so they gotta switch
Oh, wow.
locations. So you get different melting temperatures and stuff like that, but that's just part.
Yeah, paper's gone up too. Like I print on Kitakata paper, it comes from Japan. It used to be like $3 a sheet. I saw on site, one site was selling it for like $17 a sheet.
Oh,
Kitakata.
Yeah.
But it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, you gotta be in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
And you gotta bet on yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
Buy good materials.
Take it through the lead times and. Yeah, you just gotta bet on yourself.
I'll speak for wood. Cherry's gone down in price, oddly enough. Walnuts doubled in the last year. We just paid $250 a 4 foot for some color.
Wow.
So when we get to pricing, I'll explain how we price our tables, given that some are more expensive to make. How's that?
Yeah.
Three things, okay, sorry,
Well,
one.
I was just gonna say, the other great thing about Whitby is we're such a great community. Like, I think it's kind of networking, getting to know people, like, we have studios next door to each other, so we can bust into each other's spaces and, have pick-me-up conversations, or, like, if I hear a call that I think Cormac would benefit from, I'll let him know about it. So, I think that's also a really important thing to do. Stay connected and help one another.
So on the island here, there are for support, there's still the fall studio tour. My wife won't be in it because I'm in Woodpalooza next week or week 2. She's one of the other. There used to be a spring studio tour in the galleries. We did that a number of years. I don't know the other practice there. So, and I believe what's the art trail? Art trails is so. I don't know the particulars of that. We quit doing it because all the people that showed up. So expensive tables to woodwork. Doesn't.
And there's Goosefoot.
Oh, yes.
They have the Hub Gallery downstairs. I've exhibited there many times. They are awesome. The support is great. And you get downstairs. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a student art show going on right now.
Yeah.
And then we just opened the Frank Rose Gallery in the South Whitby Community Center. It's you don't have to pay. You can book yourself in to have a show there too. It's really great.
So I could enter, I sent a couple of weeks ago. And I sent 50 emails, pretty much the same email, to celebrities. Celebrities who are interested in the conservation of the ocean. A couple of my ocean pieces. Sent it out, spent a couple of days doing it, sent it out, sent it out, sent it out. And be like, what response? And I didn't get any response. But I'll do it again. I've written to galleries, I've entered competitions. And there are way more setbacks than there are those victories. Just like the lads were saying, it's a long game, it's a long form game here. So one of the things I would say is to try and separate yourself from your emotions from the business aspect of the artwork. Because it can be tough. But don't let the sending of 50 emails stop you from sending 50 more. Because you only need one
Right.
to be answered.
During the EDGE program, they tell you if your rejection file is less thick than this, you're not applying one.
Yeah, yeah. Because you don't know who's sitting in, it's just like somebody wants to buy my painting versus a piece of Melissa's art. It's going to be different. So the person who's receiving your entry or the group who are receiving your entry may not dig your art, but there will be another group who will. But you have to keep going. You can't let it set you back. And then the second thing I would say in this day and age, and it's different from the rest of the guys up here, but I do believe, you kind of have to have an online presence, whatever that is. And even within that, you separate yourself from the likes, from the comments, from the shares. It doesn't actually matter. As long as your work is getting seen by somebody, then none of the rest of it matters. When it does happen, whatever. It's nice. But you keep going. Because for me, as I said, the social media gets to the website gets to the gallery. But how are they going to get to find my website in the world of the internet unless I show them where it is? And I think Facebook is the easiest, Facebook or Instagram, and I used to do them all. And Pinterest.
They're connected now anyway.
There's too many, and I was spreading myself out way too thin and not working solely on any. So I know that part of my work appeals to the Instagram people, part of it appeals to Facebook people. And one of the biggest discipline practices is not allowing yourself to start scrolling. You know, you look at your work and you see how it's going on up there, and then you see a pretty little reel and it's like, well, I have my own gallery, there's no one here for a minute. It's horrendous. So that's my little thing in this day and age, I think. And especially starting off in these days, I mean, guys have put in their time to get to the place where they are at.
Yeah.
And we all have to do that. And I know I'm just a spring chicken in the game. But it went fast for me, as I said, because I had the marketing, I had the artwork, and I married the two of them. So the business portion of marketing myself, I could do. But again, it's a long game. It's a long game.
I think there's a series, I think it's on Netflix called Genius. I don't know if any of you have seen it. There's one on Einstein. Yes. And there's one on Pablo Picasso. It's really worth seeing the one on Pablo Picasso. It's an absolute, you know what, S-H-I. But what's interesting is because, you know, when you're visionary and you're doing something that maybe people don't get right away, but you keep at it, you know, that's the other thing. It's like, because I grew up in Europe, a lot of my references are European, and Europe isn't just Europe, it's also Africa and North Africa. And so I have all these references that maybe the average American wouldn't necessarily understand. You know, I do a lot with creation mythology, and we don't necessarily have that understanding of mythology. Well, maybe we do. But that's just what I'm interested in and passionate about. And I find that those stories are really important for what we're living through now on this planet. But I keep at it, you know, and occasionally someone will get it and want it and love it. And so that's my reward.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about Picasso, like in the beginning, people didn't get what he was doing, right? But he just kept at it. He really believed in his work. He had that passionate commitment to it. So I would just say, just keep your passions high and keep making art.
I think what you said about the numbers don't matter. I used to make little dolls and I was selling them at a show. And there was one out on the table, and that was the one that everybody picked up and fiddled with. And that was the one that did not sell by the end of the show.
Yeah.
All of the other ones did. Everybody looked at it, it's like, oh, it's cute. They play with it, and then they bought something else. So yeah, the numbers don't matter.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone, I just wanted to say I'm gonna take off. However, I wanted to thank you for mentioning the Hub Gallery. Because I actually oversee and curate the Hub Gallery downstairs. And it's great for emerging and pre-emergent artists as well.
Nice.
So if you're interested in being on our artist call list, or if you're interested in perhaps showing in the Hub Art Gallery, why don't you let Sammy know?
Yeah, or put a star next to your name on there, and I'll make sure you get added to the call list.
And then there's a couple of different ways to submit your work. One is through group art shows. And then the other way is we do solo art shows, again, for emerging artists. And we have had many artists who've had their very first group art show here. We are booked this year and into, next year. So now's the time if you're interested.
But you can still get into the group shows.
Yes.
Those aren't booked yet. So like one of our most popular ones is the under $100. The under show that's around Christmas time.
Yeah.
That has a pretty high volume of space in a minute now, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I'd be happy to talk to anyone, further information Melissa has shown here, many times. I love it, the installation work and all that. So anyway, great. Bye, enjoy. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so on the note of taking an approach and sticking with it, if you're approaching a gallery or a potential client or even a grant fund like you talked about, what's your advice for making that approach? How do you build confidence in yourself?
I'll go first. Ours is a little different because we are looking for a potential niche. We visit a gallery. In the last case, I guess the best one, Edmonds. We went in Edmonds one day, we looked at all the galleries. We had lunch, looked at Sandy and she looked at me and said, where would you like to be? Whole gallery. So went back and she'd never thought about having wood. She had some ugly pedestals. And we showed her some pictures and said, we have something you can add. Or if you want, if you're interested. She says, I don't know. Well, how about trying a couple? She said, sure. And they're now our number 2 gallery of sales. I love them. She hates maple, but she loves any other wood. And that's kind of the way we've done it, but it's because we found a niche. And so if you can find a niche, go into a gallery and I'll read Penco, where I'm a co-op member, the vice president. If you go in there and you don't see any photographs and you're a photographer, guess what? That's a niche. If all you see are oil painters and you're a watercolorist, that's a niche. And the galleries, if they don't have an inventory that's varied and good and fresh because they found stuff, they don't have an inventory to sell. They're not going to do well either. So they want a variety of art that's full of jewelers and photographers, and you're an oil painter. Go talk and tell them you can help them, and look at the art. So you don't do it all in one trip. That's the other thing. You go in and look around and say, if I'd like to be in here, what's missing? And is there something I can do? And that's my advice. And it's tough. That trip in Seattle, we went to 7 galleries and they all said that. Sam Davidson, have you ever been there?
Yeah.
There's this long white brick wall on the left, and there's little bitty paintings 6 feet apart. Perfect spot to put a table underneath there, or bronze, anything. Nope. And Sam Davidson. Oh my gosh, my birthday 10 years ago. But Sam Davidson sat there behind the counter. I know who he is. And he had one of his minions thrown there. But that's okay. But yeah, find a niche.
Approach. That's one approach. So the Artists Trust Edge program, they tell you absolutely not to do that. So you go online, you check out what the gallery is showing, who the artists are, what their work looks like, and see if your work fits in with that gallery. And then you can email them and you can ask them if they're looking for artists. Sometimes they'll put you on a list. Sometimes you'll see they'll have on their website, it'll say, you know, we're looking for artists. And my experience, how I got into the Seattle Art Museum gallery is I just finished the Edge program and I was looking around for a gallery. I thought my work would fit there. So I called, and Jody Bento, who was the director at the time, answered the phone, which was a miracle itself. And I asked her, you know, are you looking for any new artists? And she said, no, I'm really sorry. We just moved. It's a small facility. It's full capacity. But my intuition said, don't answer quickly and say, okay, thank you, and hang up. I said, pause. So I paused. And her next sentence to me was, well, once in a blue moon,
Really?
I will take in an Edge graduate. And I go, guess what? I just graduated from the Edge program. It's like total serendipity. So, you know, that can happen. But I wouldn't go in cold. I guess what you can do, which I have done, like that's how I got into Museo, is I would go on a regular basis to all the shows and get to know the owner on a more personal level, and then you can maybe introduce your work. And they'll try it out. They'll ask you to bring pieces, and then they'll have a conversation, then you'll know whether you're in or not.
It's one thing that I observed in doing shows all over the United States for about 30 years. Places like Sun Valley, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Park City, Utah, they have a lot of galleries. And when I started doing shows, the gallery owners would come around to the show and ask if you wanted to, sell them stuff or consign to them. Well, I didn't do any consigning, but after a few years back, probably in the mid-80s, I started noticing that more and more of the stuff in these galleries was all Chinese stuff.
Oh, wow.
And they stopped buying from American artists.
Wow.
And
Wow.
now, the last time I was in Park City, it's 100% Chinese.
Oh my goodness.
They'll probably start buying from American artists now.
It's hard on that work.
Maybe, we'll see.
Park City is still only buys Americans,
Mhm.
but all the other galleries.
Oh, that is depressing.
The funding to the National Endowment for the Arts has been cut. Even grants that they were already awarded have been rescinded. Really depressing. I just got email notifications from Oregon Arts Commission, Oregon State Arts Commission, Washington State Arts Commission.
Well, a lot of them closed too. The COVID killed off a lot of them, just barely making,
Yeah,
but,
but there's still money out there and still, we all need art, right? So,
We all need her.
and a really great book to read too. I'm like really into metaphysics and stuff like that. So Connie Mendez and Florence Scovelshyn, really interesting writers, both women. It's kind of old fashioned English, but they really work with the laws of the universe and manifestation. So we've got to really watch what kind of thoughts you entertain. And Cormac and I have talked about this a lot, like stay in that positive mindset and you will attract to yourself what it is you want, whether it's negative or positive. And they say thoughts backed by emotion creates motion. So.
Mel says it to me all the time. She corrects my sentence and tells me how I should say the sentence, and she's always right. I kick the tire and I'm like, it's out of air. And Mel says, no, it's not going to be out of air forever. So let's be positive. I'm like, okay. But no, it definitely, because I don't know, in relation to approaching people, I think I kind of said my piece, which is I'm like literally when it comes to putting my work out and putting it in front of people's faces. I mean, it's online is how I contact galleries. That's how I build a relationship. That's how I open the door for myself, is just reaching out with an email. That could be your first step, and it's not aggressive, it's not pushy, it's not anything. If it doesn't get answered, it doesn't get answered.
Right.
But there's a massive amount to be said about that personal relationship. Go and meet, stand in front of people, shake their hand, and start to build a personal relationship, because you are your brand.
Right.
What you present as yourself is who you are as an artist, obviously. But you are the brand. When somebody buys a painting from me, a percentage of that painting, they're actually buying me and my story. And it's kind of a cliche,
Right.
but they're coming to talk to me. I don't do commissions because I would always get into my head, do they want me to do this? And I decided to take one recently enough. And I had a little hurrah moment, which is the most ridiculous thing, because you would think I already knew this. But I'm doing the painting and I set it aside and I'm not quite happy with it. And I'm like, what do they want? What do they want? And I'm like, oh, hang on, they came to me. Oh, and I thundered into it and I enjoyed the process. And I had this beautiful painting and I called them and I said, come see it. And they loved it. And I did me. But it took all this time because I'm still not there confident as an artist. I still have so many insecurities, so many fears, so many apprehensions that get in my way of being successful in having that perfect moment of painting where I'm not getting in my own head. And so commissions used to get in my head, but not anymore. But that personal relationship is massive, but you can open the door with that quick email. or a message on Facebook or a message on Instagram, or you make comments about new artwork in the gallery, you're getting yourself seen.
Yeah.
You're getting yourself seen slowly, one step at a time.
There are also things you can do, like I painted backdrops for Woodby Children's Theater for quite a few years, and I ran an art program, after school program for kids when they were at the middle school out of WCT. And so there's things you can do locally where people get to know you, right? So you're also contributing in other ways
Mhm.
will kind of help your career as well. It's not done for that reason, but it's a beneficial thing that comes back to you.
Doing special orders is slippery slope. Actually, our dinnerware set is 30 years old, and it's because the lady came in and ordered top plates a certain way. We did them that way, and the daughter came in who the dinnerware set was for. And I don't like them. So.
Oh, dear.
And people don't realize what they're asking a lot of times. That lady come in and want an 8-inch candle holder, 8-inch diameter. That's almost a dinner.
Ridiculous.
You know, she was actually wanting something that was
Sure.
4 inches
Yeah.
or smaller. And, you know, people want a coffee mug. They want their name on it. They want the date they were born. You know,
Yeah.
four different colors. And then they say, well, keep it simple.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would do special offers probably.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's taken a lot of stress off my life,
yeah,
trying to think, oh, is this person gonna like it?
yeah.
Right.
You know, because you get it done and you like it and it's what they wanted and they come in and say, no. I don't
I'm not sure, yeah.
You know, and then you're stuck with it and then you gotta try to sell. So that's my take on that.
Yeah,
I actually love commission.
Well,
It's an oddity, but you know, some of the people, it depends on the person. You kind of really. My favorite one was a woman who lived in Port Angeles. And she wanted a table. And she didn't know exactly what wood or length or size or anything. She made 5 trips during the course of making a table. She even named it stamp, all pieces are stamped. And she loved the process. So her first trip where she's going, well, I want a table, what size? I don't know. So we walked out in the shop. We looked at them. And she picked them up. And she said, can I borrow it? Sure. So she took a Port Angeles, put it on a chair, said, okay, here's what I want. The whole process was really enjoyable, but I can see how it could go wrong. And so I prefer them to go to a gallery. Right now we have 67 tables in the 7 galleries. Point and Reel Gallery says, is that what you want? Sure, but I want it 3 inches taller. And we cut off the legs. And that person actually came to watch me cut off the legs with a Japanese saw, baked and put on 3 inches tall. So that to me, I get it, that it can really go wrong. You know, an artist that painted a piece, thought it was all perfect. Client came in and says, I don't like green. It had green, not a lot, but green. She had to take it back and either cave and do it the way or say, I'm sorry, no.
yeah,
And she chose to repeat. And she was never happy.
each art medium is different.
for sure.
Yeah, totally.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
for pottery,
Sure.
you can't sell it on, I know 2 potters that sell pots online. And they only sell coffee mugs. Because people want to pick it up, they want to see the scale, the size, the weight. And I'm sure a lot of paintings, they want to see the size.
Yeah.
And the scale of it, and you can't see that on the internet.
Yeah, yeah,
Because it doesn't translate that.
Yeah.
So a lot of people want to see it in person, that's why galleries are good in that regard,
Yeah.
but, you know, not everybody.
when I post my paintings, I've got 2 methods that shows perspective, which is massively important, as you were saying. One is I put it on my easel and I take the photograph of me with this really cheesy grin on my face beside my painting. And it's not because I like seeing myself in on a Facebook or anything, it's all for perspective and the size of the piece. That's basically what it is. And the second one is, that one is, like that last one is 4 foot by, it's a huge piece and it's just this tiny image on the screen. And the other one is I've got another a piece of software called Smartiest, and it allows me to superimpose my painting into the scene, sitting room, a random AI generated sitting room. And I can put it in the kitchen, I can put it in the hallway, and they've got thousands of these images of hallways and rooms where you can put your work on. And again, it's showing the perspective, because I will always post that with the picture of the painting. They will go together because if you look at my work and you think it's that size, it's not nearly as impactful as.
Only this big.
Yeah, it is, but you wouldn't know.
Include dimensions of your work.
Oh, no, I do, but people are so visual, people are so visual now. And they're scrolling.
They don't know if you're 4'2" or 6'7".
No, they don't, that's true, I'm 6'4", what are you talking about? 6'2", 4. So those are, because, if you don't have that perspective on the size of it, it doesn't have nearly the same impact.
Yeah, definitely 3-dimensional work, yeah.
Yeah, and again, it just depends on whether you're painting paintings like you do, like, because I do a lot of public art. So one.
There you go, there's one of the
Yeah.
things, so I can put it in. The exposure on this is quite high now, so my work doesn't look nearly as good, but. Sorry, go on.
So I just finished working with the museum on 2nd Street in Langley. They're redoing the whole museum. It's opening May 17th, so you guys should go check it out. The front room is entirely dedicated to the Snohomish tribe whose land we're on. And it was really a great project because we got to work with the Hillbug, Tulalip, and Snohomish tribe to tell the story. And my daughter and I did all the drawings. I think there's a slide of it up here. So that's like commission work, but it's very specific. And I do love that kind of work. You get into the story of your clients and you can co-create. So it's very collaborative and I really like that aspect of it.
Different because there's a committee you're dealing with rather than a person.
Several people. Yeah, in this case, it was the 2 historians.
We're involved in a couple of we did for the library in Cookville. We did a one-leg table for a Georgia Gerber cat. It was we don't do a lot of commercial work, but we did a one-leg table for a Georgia Gerber Maine Coon cat that was donated. Janet Ensman, I think, was in her honor when the library was built. And dealing with the committee, it's a simple little in a corner table with one leg. But a committee of 5 had to be involved. And it was interesting to do, but that was a fun one. Because again, everybody had the thought, and it's just a one leg table.
Circling back around that, when you build confidence yourself. What did you say to me before we got started?
No, I don't remember now. What's it? I don't have it, still don't have it. No, we don't, but it propels me. Because I want to do better in my trade. I want to be better. I'm hungry for it still. But I'm still as I said, this thing that we're on is just a journey. There's no destination to success. And it's every small individual job at a time with the next suggested thing to you that you're thinking of, just one at a time to build it. And I think over time, yes, my confidence in several of the business areas has developed and developed. My sales. By doing though, I'm not failing. Or not failing, what would you call it? Lack of success, you're not more positive word than feeling. But yeah, through both and persevering. If that's the only piece of advice, and I know again it's a cliche, but just don't give up. You just keep going. Because nothing will stop your success except you and your own mindset.
There's no ultimate authority that's gonna come down and say, you're not an artist.
No, it's all about you. You want to do it, do it. but understand it's hard work and be willing to move forward.
I've got a great.
Go for it.
To follow it.
I can hear you
Cormac has shared.
chomping at the bit
And
there
it's from
beside me.
Rubin's book, okay? The act of self-expression isn't about you or me, really. Choosing the artist's path isn't really a choice, but a calling. We feel compelled to engage as if by some primal instinct. And I think that's so true. You know, when you contribute your point of view to the world, others can see it. Art has the ability to connect us beyond the limitations of language, and that's another aspect about it that I really love. And I think when you are turning up every day and your art becomes your practice, you're so in the journey that you don't really think about how, you know, it's not about confidence. You're just in the journey of making it. I think it's only when you finish something and it has to be shown to the public, then you can get a little nervous, you know, like, and you can maybe be doubtful or struggle with confidence. I think the older I get, the less I worry about that because, you are who you are, you know, you kind of start to like yourself, hopefully, you know, and, you start to love all the different aspects of yourself, you know, and there's this beautiful Kate Bush song, I don't know, do all of you know who Kate Bush is? Great English artist from the 70s and 80s. And she says it's about an architect who's painting and there's like rain coming down and it's washing his paint down off the canvas and stuff. And then he makes a mistake and she said, it's the greatest bit of the painting,
Yeah.
a mistake.
I've had people say that to me about what I thought was a mistake on my painting, and they're like, oh, I love that. And I'm like, yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, yeah, the same
And
thing.
then I had a really great art teacher, Larry Calkins, he's also at Seattle Art Museum Gallery. And I took a collage encaustic class with him at Pratt in Seattle. And he would go around to each student and he'd say, which is your favorite part of that piece of art we're working on? And you go, I'm just really loving this piece right here. You go, get rid of it.
Kill your darling.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you keep going beyond, you know, keep pushing further, you know, get attached. And that's a really hard thing to do.
Especially with wood, that means you're cutting out.
That's right, you've measured 3 times, cut 1.
Okay, so one last question, and then we'll get out of questions from the audience. This is a big one. Do you have any tips on pricing your art?
I'll tell you, I run into that with co-op members at Koch Gallery. Richard Nash is the meanest one that way. He taught art for 35 years in Oak Harbor. And he says you do it by the size. And for a painting, that's the way he does it.
Mm.
We have another young artist who puts everything on Etsy. And so that includes shipping. And all of her oil paintings, that's 198. This one's 218. Weird pricing, all because the weight and having to include shipping, she just backs the shipping out. That's the price. He argues me all the time that I cannot ask $2,000 for that table, $2,000 for that table, $6,000 for one, $6,000 for another, based on the value and rarity of the wood and how much Sandy and I like that table. And he says, we're totally wrong. No, I don't think so, but I get it for certain possible, if you're making coffee mugs, do you price them differently? Or pots that are the same size?
Depends on the glazing,
Okay.
but yeah, they're pretty consistently priced.
Yeah.
So,
And ours aren't, and we constantly are told by the gallery and Edmonds, Cole Gallery, underpricing. Raise the price, she'll sell it better. That's another one that's always a fun one.
My question for you is, the pieces you like, do you charge more on those or less on those?
It depends. It depends. In truth, we did a barter for our website for a piece for sale.
Yeah.
And it was
We
a
both
lot
felt like we were taking advantage of each other, that's how you know it's good work.
of things like that for family and all that. You know, it's not about profit. It's having the fun, it's the journey.
I think you try it out, you know, if you're just starting. There's this other rule of thumb, which is think of a price and double it. That's one I've heard a lot. When I was selling, at Museo, a Seattle Art Museum told me that my prices were too low and to raise them. So there's something about raising your price, which raises people's confidence because they think they're buying something really great. If it's too cheap, you know,
That's
that's how it works in grocery stores too, you know, they.
So it's
Yeah, it depends
suspicious.
on the medium.
true.
I raise my prices too high, they go to IKEA and buy a coffee mug.
Yeah,
You know,
but
so-
maybe pottery is a little different than, you know, paintings,
Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Like I said, every medium is different,
right?
and you have to price accordingly. I mean, I knew a potter in Montana that carried around a couple of red pots for 5 or 6 years, never did sell them. And I'm thinking, you know, if I don't sell something the first year, it's going in the markdown bin. You know, I'm gonna sell it, I'm not gonna carry it around for 5 years. Because it's taking up space and nobody's buying it. I just soon get a couple dollars out of it and be done with it and move on to something that's better.
Right. And there's also in French, they call it a coup de cœur, you know, the kick of the heart. So if somebody sees something and they really flash on it, they have to have it. It kind of doesn't matter what the price is, they're gonna buy it.
That's true.
Yeah, I've had that happen. And actually, Seattle Art Museum, when I first got in there, I got in because I submitted 2 art pieces that I really loved that I didn't want to sell. And Jody Bento calls her assistant and tells him to get 2 hooks and 2 nails. And I'm like, uh-oh. And she hangs those pieces in the gallery like straight away. This is after her telling me she probably can't take me, so she took me right away, hangs the stuff in the gallery, and I gave a really silly price, really high. Like, I'm like, okay, that's $2,000 each, and they were little pieces. And like a month later, I get this huge check in the mail, and I'm like, oh, what is this for? And they sold them, you know, so, you know, if somebody loves something.
It is
they'll buy it.
interesting that the Gaskell's Gallery, when they got my tables, after the first few sales, they played a game. They left the tables in there. There were 3 of them at the time. They doubled the price of one. They lowered the other one about 30-40% and left one. Everybody that came in seemed to notice that. And they bought the more expensive one. Jewelry at the Pengrove Gallery, when we have a new jeweler, we'll often ask them to lock it up. And it's not because it's more valuable. People tend to notice that it's locked up and they must think that they need to go see it. And that's one of the fun ones. Some of the artists that come into a co-op, and again, I'm making a plug for a new artist, go see a co-op. They don't care about your MFA. They don't care where you showed. They judge on 4 on this island, they judge 3 pieces of your art. That's it. 3 pieces of your art. But when they come into a co-op, they often don't know how to frame, they don't know how to price, they don't know how to hang their work, etc. And we usually help with that. But one of the things we do is get a scale. We had a felt artist. I've never seen a felt artist. Beautiful stuff. And we just had her pricing with a range. And the people that came in exactly pinpointed what that price should be. And it was higher than she'd ever thought. And let them do it. So she made changes to all of them and she sold really well. And that's one of the points of playing a little bit with price, because it is very subjective. If somebody has the money and they want it, they aren't really going to go walk away if they have the money, if it attaches to them. So how do you get that attachment? That's where your art comes in. That's the challenge. That's the challenge.
There are people for painters, there are people who sell giclée prints that are really high quality prints, so you can sell those less money. But I've also been told that's a bad thing to do, because then people will buy your originals for more money. Like you can undercut your own market.
Yeah, so I used to sell prints. I sold everything, prints, t-shirts, the whole shebang. And I didn't make jack from those. And in fact, some people approached and asked for, where would we get prints of your work? We want to put it on canvas and we're going to frame it and we're going to do this and that. And I said, look, let's talk about a payment plan and you can buy the original painting. Let's do it over a period of time. There's no rush. You can give me whatever you want week by or month by month. And those people were delighted with that method of selling, or that method of being able to purchase their painting. At the beginning, I mean, I sold my first large painting for like, I think it was like $200, right? It's a big, I still remember it, it was a really, really good piece of art. And slowly but surely, incrementally, I increased. Now, I painted one 12-foot by 5-foot piece. Obviously, that's going to be way more money than my smaller pieces. And it was really good. So it had an extremely high price. I didn't expect it to sell in the gallery it went to. And it was a new gallery. It sold the day before the gallery opened to a collector in Taiwan. That's my big feather in my cap. Like that was a big deal. But that was like the high end. I had to build and build and build slowly, surely. And then when I was going to a gallery, I upped the prices a little bit. So I was bitter. You know, just a little bit more, not too much. But I upped them because that was my gallery prices. That's my home gallery prices. It's my gallery prices. And it's my business. You know, not rubbing it in anyone's face, it's my business.
And they're taking a cut.
So that's why I upped it. I don't have my prices online because as part of the sales of the business, I build a personal relationship. I get in communication with them when they send me a message. How much is that paid? That's the beginning of communication. So that's why I don't put them up. Some people like to put them up. I don't need to. I want to build a rapport with those people who are potentially going to want to buy a painting. Because again, it's very, very tough to see on screen what the heck is going on. When they come in and see the texture and the lighting in my gallery, and they can get up close and walk back and see it at different angles, and all of a sudden the painting is alive. It's dead on the screen. It's just, they're looking at just color and maybe a little bit of composition, but it's so difficult. Sorry, that's going on and on a little bit about the pricing method, but I have paintings. Sometimes it's size-based, but I have paintings that when I step back, like the one I described earlier on, right, blindfold, and I just know this is superb. I don't actually want to sell this. This is one I'm going to hold on to forever. So if I put a price on that, it's going to be very high. And in fact, it's in my gallery now with a NFS, not for sale sign right beside it. And of course, it's the one that people gravitate towards. I say it's not for sale. And then this is the line every single time, but everything has a price. You know, it's just building a bit of fun, what we call in Ireland, a bit of crack, which is the Irish word for fun and joy. Very different to your version of those. But you're building a relationship, you know. So your pricing, my advice is baby steps.
Try it out.
And try different areas. Because as you can see, we all have our different path. And yours is your path. You have to find it yourself. We can give you a little bit of advice and find a good advisor around you, an artist that you respect, who you see is being successful, and ask them, show me how you did it.
Galleries often will sell paintings by the square inch, price per square inch.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, see, told you. Keep painting. That's funny.
That brings up the galleries I'm in, I own that work. It's not in there, they don't buy it outright, I control it. I control the quality, I make sure when people touch it, it feels like it should. Even if some kids put ice cream all over it. That we control the pricing and we don't change the galleries. That's deadly.
Oh, yeah.
Because people know the galleries actually go shop other galleries.
Mm.
And so they all have a perimeter. The one in Anacord is a 60 miles radius. That's huge. That's Canada.
What do you mean 60-mile radius?
You can't show another gallery.
Oh, yeah.
in a certain
Oh, yeah.
radius if you're in.
And that's for, I'm exempt from that because my pieces are all one of a kind. But for a lot of artists, that's really limiting. Your half-cell artists, that's big.
I think a lot of companies have that, sometimes put into.
Yeah.
They just like, well, I don't want to compete with the other person.
In town, even on the island or in
Yeah.
Cookville, et cetera, but 60
Wouldn't let me
miles.
sell
Yeah.
in our car when I was in the museum.
Oh, interesting.
The same for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
There.
So
But
I
that's-
actually own
Yeah, I'm not either.
Put a dot.
I've heard that before.
But they're also setting up with the artists an annual show too, that they just don't want that same show the next month to go to another competing gallery. Such, and so I get all of that, but you know, I have year-round representation.
Sound gallery don't do that. You can show in other galleries when you're in sound. Right. It's a museum, so it's a little different.
Sure.
All right, so anybody in the room have any questions for the lovely folks?
Well, a question, maybe just comment too, I guess. So like you talked about the Edge program, when you said that, I went, oh, I took that 25 years ago. I remember filling out the application and going and taking the classes, and yeah, so I kind of, oh yeah, I was gonna be a professional artist one day or something. But, so I'm retired, I have, you know, a decent pension, I wanted to get back into my art. And so, do I want to be a working artist, that doesn't necessarily, I'm not in a position where I have to make a living at it, which puts me in a different place.
Yeah.
And so I have to think about, well, what are my goals? And a lot of it is, well, I'd like to share my art, I'd like to have a community, like, I'd like people to go, that's a really cool piece of art, you know, we all like that. And, you know, if I make money at it, so be it, but I don't have to, which is a different thing than for many of you, because you made it's your career, it's your livelihood. But what I did notice that I can relate to is you, and I think, Cormac, you brought it up, but I think other people have repeated it, is this idea that you are practicing a craft and you have to learn your craft. And I think that applies across the board.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a lost idea, but you know, and there's a book, called Art and Fear. It's a
Yeah, it's
really
a
great
great book.
Yeah, and Dave Bayless and I can't remember the other person. Anyway, one of the things they say is that 90% of or 95% of the work you get is, it can just be, it's gonna be tossable, or it's not gonna be your find, but you have to do that in order to get to the
Yeah.
5%.
100%.
Yeah, so it's a lot of just like, okay, getting up, it's like writing, it's like, I'm not gonna write the Great American Chinese novel.
Yeah.
You know, just by all of a sudden waking up one day and saying, I'm a writer.
Well, that's not necessarily true. Like, I don't know the process that happens to me. Like, it just comes into me and it's done.
Right, like, that's after years of working.
Okay, yeah.
You didn't just wake up.
Oh, yeah, I see.
And never do art before.
No, that's right.
I mean, it's the same thing, you know, let's say somebody in sports where, you know, it looks totally.
Right.
It is, but they had to
When you master it.
get pounded around.
Yeah.
And one other thing I just like to add, as you were talking about, this idea of kind of spirituality and things. And I agree with that on one level, but then I also look at somebody like Rothko. He was depressive all his life and just paid the
Jackson Pollock.
Jackson Pollock was, you know, horrible alcoholic.
Yeah.
Not that you shouldn't be that way, but they still created what I consider to be great art.
Maybe that was their solace from
Yeah.
those feelings and
Yeah,
emotions,
that's-
Exactly.
because they had to do it.
Yeah.
They have, yeah.
Something was in them
Yeah.
that said, I have to. I described it this way to people. That I do believe creativity is an external thing from. And that it comes through me. And I'm really just a paintbrush. Creativity is the artist. And here's the secret, I do not tell this to many people, but so I was a raging alcoholic and drug addict 6 years ago. 6.5 years ago. I was. And I was about to lose everything in my life. But art had always been a constant for me since I was small. I started trying to master my craft when I was 6. But I went on a different path in life that I could not cope with. And so I needed to go to dark space of life. And so I did for 25 years of my life. And art became my avenue to be able to process those voices that exist in my mind. And so I understand what it means for art to take you from space and time and to bring you to a different place. And when I was brought to that different place when I painted, it turned out that there was a lot of other hard work as well, but painting really saved my bacon at the end of the day, because I was able to release through hard mental work and then with painting, and it sustains me. Because if I didn't have painting, when I don't paint, I'll come home and my wife will look at me and go, after about an hour, and she'll go, you didn't paint today. She can know. I start to get all discombobulated, my mind starts to run riot, those things I talked about, those anxieties and whatever. So painting allowed me to take my little break from the work. And it just so happened then that it became my career. I wanted that so much. I knew that if I didn't get that, if I didn't continue with art in my life, the possibility of me dying was highly likely. And losing my family, losing my job, losing everything. My mom and dad back in Ireland said, don't come back to Ireland until you get your shit together. The whole country ejected me. So there was a lot riding on this, but the thing that sustained me was art. 100%, there's no doubt in that. Yeah. So I understand, Paula. I understand that.
Well, and if you look at the whole outsider art, you guys know about the outsiders, right? I mean, a lot of them have schizophrenia and all kinds of things, but they're just like tapped in,
Yeah.
which is beautiful. Like so many of us, I mean, Matisse has written about it, are trying to get back to that innocence, like being a child where, you have that free creativity.
Famous, who's famous, so I can't remember. Who's the other like education artist in New York City?
Oh, yeah, what's his name?
Basquiat.
Basquiat, yeah.
And I had a chance to see his retrospective of his work.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You're doing it on a fence post at Priest.
Yeah,
It was amazing. He died.
yeah, drugs.
Yeah, heroin.
The torn, twisted artist.
Huh?
The torn artist. It's a cliche, but it's
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Well, I think, a lot of us are empaths and really sensitive, so you really feel the world, and it takes a lot to hold that current that's coming through you too.
What do you think, boys?
I'm more the engineer's stuff. It's got the heart of moving the family projects. They moved to the island. It's 46, something like. Needed to find another psychic hobby and make it business. My wife was silly enough. And she loves it.
So,
Yeah.
and even, within say pottery or photography or. Even those little mini worlds are totally vast, how people approach it.
If you have a chance, run into the Penco pottery or the Penco gallery rather, and look, we have a bronze artist in there. She's new to the world of bronze art. So magic stuff's coming out of her. She lost her husband. I mean, it's one of those angst-driven things, sort of. Our first bronze artist Co-op's been there for 31 years.
Wow.
And it's
Beginner's
just
mind.
one of those brilliant, moments that came from all of that.
Yeah.
We had a solo show downstairs about 3 or so months ago. And as far as I understood it, she hadn't exhibited anywhere else before. And it was
Fiber.
needlepoint fiber, and it was stunning work. And it was just something she had been doing on her own, and it just had been building this collection up. And then I think she went to Museo, and they were like, this is really fit with what we do. But hey, go talk to Luce, but she had enough to do a solo show, and
So great.
wow.
Yeah.
It's usually emerging beginning artists, I should say, give it away to friends.
Yeah.
neighbors.
Yeah.
Pretty soon everybody's got it, now you're going, okay, oh, thanks so much. Now what am I gonna do?
I think this back to one.
Business side of our question of when you're starting to sell your work. Do you have to get a business license or do galleries take care of that? I just don't want to.
Well, I have a business license. I'm a sole proprietor. Because you have to pay sales tax unless you're going to a gallery, they take the sales tax for you. I don't think you have to have a business license if you're in a gallery. But if you're selling it yourself.
Yeah. You don't need it to taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although my wife and I started in 1988, we actually transitioned, started a little sole proprietorship. And we got the paperwork to do sales tax, collect it, turn it in. 10 years later, we got a note saying you're supposed to have a business license. We had no idea since we were collecting sales tax and turning it in. And yeah, that was quite a shock. Also, it doesn't appear that it gets renewed because there's no date on it. So we did that
They renew.
4 years ago or something. And
It's easy to get.
Yeah, don't let it, it sounds daunting,
Yeah.
it is not,
no,
don't let it stop you.
And it doesn't mess up your taxes. Super easy.
They start making money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Especially as a sole proprietor, it's just schedule Z on your regular tax.
Yeah.
but correct, the galleries, you're not an employee and they take that out if you're on commission. You sell that right to them, now it's a different matter. And
And I have also, because I do public art, I have to have an insurance for my business. But like where we're renting studio spaces, we also have to have a renter's insurance because like somebody trashed the shop windows. I don't know if you've seen them down in the Clinton market, they're like these big picture windows. And somebody threw rocks through a number of them and the owners don't insure those windows. So,
Yeah.
I mean, mine wasn't broken, yours was.
Mine wasn't broken down, and it's free.
It's tripped it though.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, it's a gallery studio, and so
Yeah.
my studio, if I'm painting, terrific. You know what I mean, there's just paint everywhere, there's everything, and so it's not a good place for someone. Gallery is fine, but yeah, anything can happen. But it's different when you have a space that you're setting art off. That's one other level from just getting your business license. But you can claim all your materials. You know, you can, it's good in that respect, you know?
Your rent
Yeah.
a space.
Yeah,
we have a shop that's 8 feet away from the house. State Farm covers the house and the building for the shop. But Liberty Mutual covers the trip and fall. Because we repair chairs and stuff, errors and omissions. In case somebody's leaning back.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
But we don't advertise open hours. And we don't really have the parking and such, but yeah, it's a big concern.
And most street fairs require artists to have insurance,
Right.
but
Yeah,
they're also set up in a way that if you're new to it, you don't want. There's probably someone on the committee that can show you
sure,
how to get that insurance.
yeah,
let it stop you.
Don't let it stop you.
That's the word of the day,
yeah.
sentence of the day.
Are all of you artists or aspiring artists? What do you work?
Yeah, what do you guys do?
Acrylic,
Nice,
very new. I kind of have a similar story
okay,
to a paint and sip and fell in love.
Oh.
With it.
fantastic.
And I just got accepted to the Arts and Crafts Festival.
Hey, great job. a big deal.
Just, pricing is really scary for me because we don't know much about that, so you guys saying stuff,
Yeah, just try it out.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you kick yourself if you price too low, and next time you price high.
Yeah.
That never stops. Never stops.
You've got a 10 by 10 booth.
Yes, well, like, they asked me, basically, I didn't have a good picture at first, and they said, you have enough work. I said, yeah, I do actually, so they're working my ass off, just like you, just building up, so.
That's it. Good for you.
Right.
Good for you. It's- My first show was in the library in Freeland. Like I said earlier on, I thought I was that. I was so happy and it was brilliant. It was really brilliant. And I advise anybody to go there. That was
Oh,
my,
I did it in
Yeah.
January. It was, the feedback was fabulous.
isn't it great
Yeah,
for our own little old library?
yeah,
So which one?
And like, it's like that, stuff like
Yeah.
that gave me my start.
it was showcased as you walk in
Yeah.
the door.
Langley's gonna do that as well.
Yeah.
You rotate it.
Okay, cool. Now that they've got their new.
That brand, a good spot to hallway there.
Oh, that's great, yeah.
The rest of you did that.
I'm a leather worker. So I specialize in repair armor and I just got 2 pieces in the airport Street show.
Nice meeting you.
We have a referral list for restorers.
You can tell me,
Nobody.
my business cards are coming in, but you might know.
Oh.
I had my first, second or third show.
Yeah, oh, right,
Yeah, when she rented it,
Yeah. Yeah,
Take
it's like
your-
20,
take your
25
course.
years ago, yeah, it was myself
That's
and her, and then there's another third. Street for help. I did saw anything but one person doing these abstract forest photos, stuff, and I took up an America and just wanted to look at it. And it feels like what it's like to be in a forest. I went,
yes.
I was like, yes, that makes my show.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it can sometimes just be one little sentence.
Yeah,
Right,
right,
that I'll take from the whole thing.
right.
What about?
I kind of have an odd one, I sell kind of hand-carved spoons.
Oh, wow.
I have a wood shop on Bush Point Road, and so I have my own venue, and I'm practicing opening the door once a month.
Good.
This is my new goal,
Good.
and last month, on my open day, I sold $1,025 with this.
downstairs food.
That was. Well, there is. That's right, the first guy in the door was retired, he's like, I want 6.
Oh, that was fabulous.
Just the
That's
time.
fantastic.
Fabulous.
Congratulations.
It's a friends were honored for making it to the tiny spoon competition. Who makes tiny spoon out of pottery, just for fun.
You could do Christmas fairs.
I'm really slow.
Already fast.
So I don't take yeah, I'm pacing myself, I mean, I'm faster than I was when I started 3 years ago, but I'm not like.
Bellevue Arts and Crafts Fair, do they still, is it shut now, Bellevue?
I don't know if it is, I'm gonna get it next year.
It's spendy though.
Yeah, it's like,
Is
it's
it?
$500 per small. Starting.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, they get local, while I'm building my craft, and
Yeah.
2 years ago.
yeah, it's like, yeah, 2 or 3.
Something like that. Woodpalooza is our annual show, is that called?
That was my first sale, and I had 13 spoons on display and I sold 4.
Yes, good for you, that's great, that's a great
I
number.
gave the entry fee back.
That's so great, yeah.
What about you?
I used to be really into making jewelry. In fact, like almost 20 years ago, I had an Etsy shop, but did really well with it. And they put me through massage school. So I've been mainly doing massage, in this building for 13 years now. And but I have an empty nest now. My kids are growing on, and so I have spent the last year and a half really just focusing on making my own studio. I've never had that before. I've always
That's exciting.
I've always worked at my kitchen table and made messes everywhere, and I have my own space. So now I'm like, okay, I got I need to do something with it, yeah, so.
That's awesome.
So you're trying to figure out what medium really sparks you and playing with a bunch?
Space, I really, I've done a lot of paintings, I did the holiday show this year, but, I kind of focused on acrylics, but now I'm kind of getting into like holdbacks and acoustics and,
So much fun.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is fun. Yeah.
just having fun and looking for inspiration and support.
That's great, that's great. Open yourself up to the possibilities, I suppose. What about yourself?
I'm a nurse, I would think.
Oh. Oh,
Figure it out that you.
Don't you have a question? Phone tape?
Did you put the dog away before we left?
That's art in its own right, take your care.
All of the comments about the stick to it.
Yeah.
We've been together for almost 50 years and he was a fledgling artist when we started. He has supported us for 47 years
Wow.
Yeah.
with his art. So stick to it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
takes you in all kinds of places and he still surprises me with his art.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's
And he
fantastic.
lets you
Sticker
afford,
shows too.
he lets you afford to just be a nurse.
She went to the studio.
I thought, yes, I'm totally not an artist. I'm the math writing person.
Yeah.
We do that,
That's
so,
what I was
yeah.
gonna say.
He makes a beautiful art and then I help him sell it,
Yeah.
and then I take his money.
Yes.
So I am a recently retired corporate commercial photographer. And I've only been doing fine art for about 3 years, and I thought it would be the easiest thing in the world, and nothing but for the. You talked about commission. We're early in this discussion, and that was my life as commission, because I would sell the job and we would come, scope of work, conditions, et cetera, and sign an agreement, a contract for it, and then I would go shoot whatever I needed to shoot, I'd be sent to New York or South America or wherever to shoot a chef or a celebrity, whatever it might be, or an institution. And then I thought, and I always liked art. I mean, I got into photography because I just liked doing art, but I needed to make a living.
Mhm.
So that's why I morphed to commercial. So since moving to that, I have had my work up at the Coopville Library, you mentioned that. Actually, next month, I'm gonna be in the Book Harbor Library.
Awesome.
I have 5 pieces up. Do you know the Colonel's house at Fort Casey?
Yeah.
I have 5 pieces up.
That's brilliant, that's brilliant.
That's great.
And that's a great house.
Yeah, it really is amazing.
And are those for sale, if I may ask?
They don't allow me to put the price, well, it's a little bit complicated, because when I put the pieces there, Seattle Pacific owned the property.
That's right.
It's recently been sold to Snohomish County YMCA,
Oh, that's right, I saw that.
but the same condition, I had to go sign a new hold harmless agreement just a couple of weeks ago. If you're interested in buying them, there's a notice on, and I'm not the only artist in there.
Yep.
To contact the office, and they'll contact me, and then we have works too.
And are you photographing what sort of, is it photography?
It's photography, the thing that was in Coopville, and it's gonna be in Oak Harbor, is my abandoned Whitby
Oh.
project that I'm working on. And I'm currently also working on photographing 100 Whitby artists.
Oh,
Cool.
I've been emailing you.
So, and I've been talking to your neighbor,
Yeah.
Louis, who
Yeah.
I know quite well, of course. Oh, because I also was showed at the Bishop Bay Dolphin.
Yeah, you were here before I was.
Well, that's right.
I figured out from you.
Right, I had a whole night.
Daniel Father there, yeah, and taking over.
It's really like sad for me.
Jen is a friend of mine, Jean.
Oh, okay. Yes, so anyway, that invitation's open to any artist Here, I'm up to 71
That's
Wow, okay.
of the 100.
100.
And my goal is to be done by the working artist tour in mid-August,
Yeah,
to have it up. So I want to have it all shot by at least July 1st.
okay.
So do we need to bring paintbrushes with us?
Bring something. I see you. Well, maybe we can talk about it.
I'm in already.
I'm getting lots of real positive feedback. The Pacific Northwest Art School in Cookville already want to show this project when it's done.
I mean, it's fabulous.
And other people do too. So
Yeah,
it's really getting a lot of traction. So
that's great.
Beautiful.
the invitation's open to everybody.
I don't know if industrial hammers is the way you see it yourself.
This is, I mean, the discussion is, what is an artist? I mean, I have puppeteers, I have getting tattoo artists,
Oh, yeah.
mimes, clowns. These are all artists, these are all people that have the same burning thing like that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's such a cool project.
Yeah, so that's
It's such a cool project. Because that can live on and maybe, that's got a legs like, you know what I mean? It's not just a
Yeah.
one-time show, but it's like these shots were taken in 2025.
Yeah.
100 artists, even 20 years fairly now. You know, that's really cool, because that's a living project and I love that. Your work is kind of like that as well.
Yeah.
Because they're in public spaces, they're living, it's
Right.
living art.
Yeah. And it might be cool to have like little bios of your
right,
artists.
but that's the thing that I learned, when I first moved here, I was showing all of my art that I had done from all over the world. And it didn't do a thing. But when I started to focus on things local,
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
People who aren't from here. They're about.
and because
Yeah.
when they leave, because most of the people that come aren't from the island, but they want to take something home
Yeah.
as a memory of the
Yeah.
island. So your work, for example,
Yeah,
is all about the island.
Or they're
Right,
moving here
right.
and want to get rid of their Southwest sand art.
I get a lot of that. Well,
I am multimedia collage.
ooh,
Most of my pieces are pretty small, but they're very detailed.
Yeah.
And take a long time.
Do you
wow.
exhibit somewhere or?
The Freeman Public Library.
Oh.
I actually was, my very first was here 4 years ago, there was a show. And I was in that. I did a show in West Seattle, but mostly I haven't done anything much.
I'm sure on ballot for you.
No, it's not, it was January.
So all of you can check out the Artist Trust Gap Grants, because that's, you can apply, just think up some crazy project and apply, like, I tried 3 times, I reject, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna do something really crazy just for,
That's
on a
what I
win
said.
and see if I can get this bloody grant. So I put in a grant to work with 50,000 honeybees, and I got the grant. And I worked with a local honeybee, a guy who had a farm with honeybees. And he let me put these mini artworks, slide them into the hives, and the
No.
bees worked on my art, and it was awesome.
That's crazy.
Right, so we have time for one more question. If anybody has-
We had one more artist to ask, I'm sorry.
So I do enamel and glass, and I'm new on the island, I've just been here for almost 2 years, and what I realized is that, I love Mexican art, I like the oranges and the reds,
Yeah.
and I've gone to markets, so I'm gonna be in the garden tour with the Women in Art in the summer thing in Scopus Bay. And what I realized is that people in Whidbey like more earth tones, and so I'm just trying to change a little bit, but not lose my voice.
Sure, yeah,
So,
Well, you're growing.
and I have a friend at Cove who wants me to apply there, and we're just building a house and moving in 6 weeks.
Awesome, welcome.
So, after that whole thing gets settled, but the other thing that I realized is that I was making necklaces, and those were very popular in California. Women aren't wearing that many necklaces anymore. So now I'm doing small pictures, yeah.
Yeah, but there is only what? 3 necklaces in the room?
Yeah, and before, like 10 years ago, there were women that wore necklaces.
Huh.
So, So I'm in the process of.
Bringing them back.
Talk to your friend, if, especially if she's a jeweler or glass artist, the Penfield galleries always had 3 to 4 jewelers and they sell really, really well.
Okay,
Really
one of the things is, I didn't know if you had, if there's an artist that does similar work that the person that's applying, are you inclined to not accept them?
It depends. We always have, as most galleries, they lose an artist, they move, they die, whatever. We always have ones that we're always after. We were without a pastel artist for 3 years. She moved. We still are without a stained glass artist. She died 3 years ago and we still haven't found her. Yeah.
There's also Gary Oak Gallery in a part of.
Yep, and there's 2 in Lang. Yeah, there's plenty of co-ops to look, pricing, arrangement, color, but it's weird. The color thing, yellow, reds, and oranges always sell. Whether it's stained glass, slumped, et cetera, cast. The artwork on the wall goes through, as does wood, seasonal things. And so the brighter colors like you're talking about, spring into summer, lighter woods coming into winter, darker woods, and more of the muted grays and blues. And I'm a woodworker, so that if I can see something, but no, there are a lot of those colors. They don't allow them on the island to have a train and stucco, orange houses and yellow houses, but in the home, there's a different story.
Some turquoise houses around. I'm all bright colors, so stay with the color.
Unite.
As I said earlier, we have time for one more question, if anybody has one.
Oh, we haven't heard that.
Sorry.
I'm a bit of a dabbler. I went to school for design. When my whole life and did a bunch of random things. And then recently got laid off from a job doing graphic design and was like, I'm just gonna start making stuff again. And got a little wood burning thing and I've been doing illustrations. Birds wearing fancy clothes.
Nice.
Wood burning.
Nice.
Well, my stepdaughter was like, we should do the Renaissance fair, so we got a booth together and made a bunch of stuff, but got really really into it.
Yeah.
I think really before I'd done anything I was curious about, I was like, how do you make shoes? And I was like, I'm gonna take a class on that, but like I never like stick to stuff.
Good for you, that's cool.
In Langley, there's, I forget, Sea Biscuit, no, the coffee shop next to Whidbey Pie.
Salty.
Salty Sea, thank you. They are looking for artists to exhibit. Next to the Whidbey Pie on entrance, yeah.
By the way, if anyone is teaching and wants to do like painting classes under a nonprofit, I'm the president of the Whidbey Island Arts Council and we can help you set that up.
Oh, that's very cool. And that's helpful even for a Woodpalooza. Bless you guys.
Yeah.
That's
very
awesome.
cool.
Kay Parsons used to be,
I know, she's.
yeah, God bless her.
Yes.
Love her.
And I'll put a plug in for the Coopville, but Pacific Northwest Art School. Often looking for.
Instructor.
At the gallery on 2nd Street in Langley, Co-op Gallery. And he's gonna be teaching a 2-day encaustic class.
Oh, that's great.
So,
Cool.
Well, we're both art educators.
Well, and you mentioned Frank earlier, we were close to.
Yeah, Frank, God bless her.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, thank you, everyone.
You guys are awesome.